This is a disturbing case from Miryang, South Korea. In 2004, a deeply disturbing case unfolded in the small town of Miryang, South Korea, leaving an extreme lasting impact. The incident began when a 14-year-old victim named Choi from Ulsan and a 17-year-old defendant named Park from Miryang met. They connected online and arranged to meet in person in Miryang, the place where the boy lives. During their encounter, the defendant brutally attacked the victim while hitting her repeatedly on the head with a metal pipe until she lost consciousness. After that, he enlisted the help of his friends, who transported her to a local motel. Shockingly, at least 12 high school boys took part in the initial non-consensual behavior of sexual nature of the victim while recording this happening. They were from a gang where they stole and bullied fellow classmates and more people. They tortured her for nearly a year, where she endured physical distress and violation. And disturbingly, following the assault, the boys threatened her. They told her that they would release the tape to the public unless the victim persuaded her 13-year-old sister and 16-year-old cousin to meet with them. Over the course of the following year, approximately 44 high school boys continued to subject the girls to more non-consensual behavior of sexual nature. The traumatized victim's emotional distress eventually led her to attempt suicide, prompting her admission to the hospital, especially because she couldn't get help from anyone, whether her parents or someone else. After that, the doctors got suspicious because of the marks and bruises of her body. And after that, everything became transparent, mostly at least. As news of the incident spread, the details reached the public, shedding light on the distressing series of events. The crime itself sent shockwaves through the public, but even more shocking incidents unfolded during the investigation of the case. As per the accounts of the pro bono attorney representing the victims, the police exhibited a complete disregard for the victims' privacy. Instead of respecting their requests, the officers openly discussed the case, including the victims' real names in public places. Furthermore, the pleas to speak with a female officer were completely ignored. To make matters worse, the male officers assigned to the case not only accused the girls of seducing the perpetrators, but also blamed them for tarnishing the town's reputation. Conversely, the identities of the perpetrators were kept confidential throughout the investigation. In a disturbing turn of events, the parents of the accused individuals visited the victims and subjected them to harassment and blame, holding them responsible for their son's predicament. Shockingly, throughout this ordeal, the girls received no protection or support from the system. It is evident that the handling of the case by the authorities led to the victims' trauma and highlighted a significant lack of proper care and fairness in the process. Among the 44 high school students involved in the crime, legal actions were taken against only 10 individuals. Out of the 7 were sentenced to imprisonment, while 3 were not detained pending the trial. Additionally, 20 students were transferred to juvenile detention halls. And surprisingly, 14 students were let off with a settlement amounting to $50,000 without incurring any criminal records. The longest sentence served among them was 11 months. The lenient verdict was justified on the basis of preserving the perpetrators' futures, as the system aimed to avoid permanently damaging their prospects. However, it is important to note that the $50,000 settlement was not negotiated with the victims themselves. Instead, it was awarded to one of the victims' fathers, who had previously departed from her life and struggled with alcohol addiction. These circumstances reveal the questionable outcome of the legal proceedings, where the severity of the crime and the fairness toward the victims are called into question. Due to the breach of their privacy, the victims were forced to relocate. But they face significant challenges in finding a school willing to accept them. Eventually, when they did find a school that agreed to enroll them, the parents of the defendants intruded upon the premises and publicly humiliated the victims in front of the fellow students and teachers. And because of them, they were consequently unjustly expelled from that school. Ji Won-kang, the attorney representing the girls at the time, reported that the victims have disappeared entirely, due to immense public shame they endured. Recent reports indicate that the boys involved in the crime are living normal lives, and shockingly, one of them even became a police officer at the same station that initially handled the case. South Korea continues to struggle with a culture that shames women, particularly victims in non-consensual behavior of sexual nature cases. This deeply entrenched cultural mindset has resulted in alarmingly low reporting rate, less than 10% compared to countries like the US and Canada. Even highly educated and respected individuals perpetrate harmful beliefs. For instance, a professor of medicine at Seoul National University, Lee Su-jin, made problematic analogies and interpretations of sexual crimes, suggesting a link between a woman's attire and her vulnerability to rape. Such perspectives not only blame the victims, but also effectively reward the criminals, absolving them of responsibility for their actions. And during the investigation of the Miryang case, the police initial response to the girls was to question why they let it happen, why the parents of the perpetrators harassed the girls and accused them of enticing their sons. And many more survivors of sexual crimes in South Korea receive inadequate support and protection from the legal system, law enforcement agencies, and even educational institutions, as exemplified in this case. These systemic failures highlight the deeply rooted gender inequality prevalent in the country, further exacerbating the suffering of its people. The lenient verdict reached by the judges, driven by concerns for the boys' futures, revealed a contrast in the lack of consideration for the girls' future. The victims now not only have to endure the traumatic experiences they went through, but also bear the burden of a society and a system that failed to deliver justice when they needed it the most. And there's one movie based on the Miryang case, which is called Han Gong-ju. The film don't portray directly the case, but there are some hints, even many. After changing the school, Han Gong-ju is asked by her friend if she has ever been kissed. After a silence break, she answers with about 40 times. And there are many more similarities when you watch the movie, which has an outstanding actress for that role, which had portrayed just extraordinary.